Hello and welcome back, my Be Health Empowered family, to another episode of Excuse Me, Doctor. My name is Dr. Melissa Clark. I am delighted to be here with you. And of course, my Be Health and Family Empowered family knows me as Dr. Mel. And so if you are a newbie joining for the first time, of course, please call me Dr. Mel. And please know that we are here each and every week specifically to make sure that you have the health information that you need to make wise health choices, not just for yourself, but also for your family and for your community. If you're watching us on Facebook, please go ahead and hit that like button. And if you happen to be on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate you for it. And of course, we're here to answer your questions. So I know you're here to tune in for the incredible topic that we have tonight. Make sure you put your questions and comments in the chat as we go through the show. And as you know, my incredible co-hosts are going to make sure that you are heard. And speaking of them, I have to make sure that they are right here with me. So, Miss Lila Mays, Mr. Wayne Bruce, come on through.
Howdy.
Hey.
Hey. How you doing,
how's
Dr.
it
Mel?
going? I'm doing great.
I'm doing great.
That's good. How about you, Lila? Coming in hot from the West Coast.
Coming in hot is right. From the West Coast. I'm fantastic. Thanks.
Yeah.
What's fantastic things? Fantastic things. I don't know. West Coast kind of do something to you, but fantastic things.
Yes.
But you look fantastic.
He misses me. He missed me last week, so now I have.
I did. I spoke for you though. Although you got on the thread and said I wasn't good for speaking for you, I still spoke for you.
He did it anyway.
I made sure your voice was heard, Lila.
Thank you so much.
Right, but we had the appropriate disclaimers. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You had disclaimers.
We are so glad that you're back this week.
We are.
Me too.
We are.
Me too.
Is an incredible topic,
y'all?
Yeah. Tonight, this is part two. This is part two of an incredible episode on aging while Black. Something that I hope to do.
Exactly. Something we all hope to do. Right.
We all hope to do. And on part one, y'all should go back and watch it because it was incredible. We looked into the reasons why Black people have a lower life expectancy than all other ethnic groups in the U.S. except for American Indigenous people, who unfortunately have the lowest. But the reasons are very similar for why it is achieving longevity for people of color, specifically Black and American Native peoples, is difficult.
Right. Incredible show. What you got on the line?
Yeah, I just want people to pay attention. Make sure you're dropping all your questions in the chat so we can have a lively discussion. Dr. Mel is going to handle the first part of this conversation, but we want to hear from you, the people.
Yes. And tonight, though, we talked about what part one was. Part two, we're looking at the flip side. We're going to explore tonight the secrets of healthy aging, how to do it gracefully, how to do it with resilience, and it's going to be fantastic.
I mean, I'm excited to learn what I'm doing properly.
Well, we have experts. They're going to help you know what you're doing properly, and they will be answering y'all's questions. So as Lila said, make sure to put it in the chat. Yeah.
We're excited.
And because we have so much to cover, y'all, we are actually going to postpone our recap till next episode. So stay tuned because we're going to be talking about some really, really important topics on the recap. But today we are going to get right into the show. So Wayne and Lila, we're going to see you in a little bit. And we're going to move into this talking about aging. And it's what we get to do if we are blessed. And we're bringing you part 2 about aging gracefully, featuring a senior who has cracked the code, so to speak, and is living her best life. We're going to feature her and her story. Her name is Chef Babette Davis. She is a vegan and raw food chef, a fitness enthusiast, and owner of the plant-based restaurant Stuff I Eat in Inglewood, California. She is also the author of the dessert cookbook, Cash In on Cashews, and she has a podcast available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Welcome, Chef Babette. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes, and we have a medical expert as well. We have Dr. Catherine Toomer. She is a board-certified family medicine physician with almost 30 years of experience, and as such, she is well-versed in topics from conception to aging. She is also a hypnotherapist and an NLP practitioner. I'm going to have her tell us what that is. And she specializes in weight loss and wellness. She also hosts her own weekly live Dr. Toomer talk show. And for those of you tuning in on blackdoctor.org to see us, she is also on blackdoctor.org. So welcome, Dr. Toomer. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let us get into this fascinating topic. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Toomer. How did you get interested in wellness medicine and aging?
Because I almost died. And that's the simplest way of putting it.
Wow.
When I was 36, at the time I was class 3 obese, an insulin-dependent diabetic, and a month after my daughter was born, I went into congestive heart failure.
Oh my goodness.
And I was told at the time I had about a 50% chance of living 5 years. And I already knew I came from a family that if we didn't take care of ourselves, we did poorly. My father had already shown me he was an example of if we did take care of ourselves, we could live longer. And so I knew, I mean, if I wanted to see my babies grow up, I had to do something. And so, but no one would touch me. What I had was not well known. There was, the mortality rate was so high that, you know, everyone just focused on your heart. So what I did was create my own program to save my own life. And that meant having to focus on what I used as a biopsychosocial approach to getting my life back. And I created my own health and wellness program, and I've been using it to help other people get their lives back ever since.
Wow. And what is NLP? I know it's neuro-linguistic programming, but break it down for us.
What neuro-linguistic programming is essentially is reframing. It's taking information and changing the filter at which it comes through. If that filter is something that is detrimental to how you live your life and your relationships to the world, to information, to people, it's a way of reframing that so that it improves those relationships with yourself, the world, and other people.
Wow. Now, you mentioned your parents, right? How much of the aging process is influenced by genetics versus lifestyle?
Lifestyle has a huge component. My father comes from a family where no male in 4 generations has lived past 60. Wow. He lived to 90. And mainly because my mother said she did not want to be a young widow. And so she took charge of his health, and mainly through food. And she took a man who only ate steaks and potatoes and turned him into a raw vegetable eater, essentially. Wow. And so he ate a primarily vegetable diet until he passed away at 90.
Wow.
And my mother's 4 and still living and still quite active. So
that is awesome. That is awesome. I have a great aunt who she and her husband, they both unfortunately passed away, but in their 90s, and she was over 100 when she passed, and both vegetarians. And so that is a great segue to bring in Chef Babette into the conversation. You own a vegan restaurant in LA, Stuff I Eat. So please share your story behind opening that.
Well, I met my current husband, Rondo Davis, in 1990. And prior to meeting him, I ate the standard American diet. Pretty miserable most of the time, couldn't digest the food, didn't know how to combine it properly, couldn't use the bathroom. I was pretty much miserable when it came to ingesting food most of the time. And I met him, he shared some books with me. And man, I read the books. I wasn't that big of a reader at the time, but I'm thinking this guy's giving me books and making me run hills, and what is going on? This is how you get dates nowadays. But I'm so really grateful that he shared the information with me. One of the books was Fit for Life by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond. I read both. Volumes 1 and 2. The other book was The Mucusless Diet Healing System by Professor Arnold Ehret. Read those books and quite frankly, just pretty much changed my life. And thank God it did, because man, I'm so healthy right now. It's just like he and I can't hardly believe it. We have absolutely no issues. I mean,
Wow.
really.
And would you mind sharing with the audience your age? I know it's taboo,
Yeah.
especially to ask women, but
Oh no,
you're
so
such a
happy.
yeah.
You're so happy to share the age when you feel like my husband and I do. He will be 76 in September, and I'll be 74 in December of 2024. So we're very,
Amazing.
very, very blessed and grateful to share the age and the journey. Trust. Yeah.
So since we're talking about aging, are there, this is for you, Chef Babette, are there specific nutrients or dietary patterns that are particularly beneficial for healthy aging? I'll start with you and then I'll go to Dr. Toomer.
You know what Ron and I have done now. I'm big on certain items like sea moss. I do a lot of detoxing, like 3 to 4 times a year. I'm gonna fast or detox or do something like that. We both do a lot of juicing, and we're highly into chlorophyll. We don't take a lot of stuff, but we consume a lot of veggies, a lot of raw stuff. I mean, I can make a meal out of a handful of nuts.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty much that's our lifestyle. My soul food platter at Stuff I Eat is absolutely too much food for both of us. It's gluttonous as we are right now. It's gluttonous. When I was younger, I could eat it no problem, but because I think we get so many nutrients through the juicing process and eating the amount of live food that we eat, we're not constantly hungry, and we both move, which is very, very, very important. Movement. I think too many times we get to a certain age and we sit down, and the human body was truly designed to move.
If you don't move it, you lose it, right?
Yes. Other than that, we get our nutrients from the food that we ingest. Like I said, I am big on the sea moss and a lot of herbs, bitters. When I'm detoxing, I make sure I get into the bitter herbs. But other than that, it's just my lifestyle.
Wow. And you look amazing. And Dr. Toomer, Dr. Toomer, you said that you went on an incredible weight loss journey. I know that there were many components to it, but can you talk a little bit about your food journey and, are there, from a medical perspective, specific nutrients or dietary patterns that are particularly beneficial for healthy aging?
Yes. Essentially, eating as close to the food source as possible. If you can recognize it, then it's better than if you can't. Our body doesn't know what to do with processed food. And when our body doesn't know what to do with something, it stores it in fat until it can figure it out. So even if you're not eating something that would normally consider fat producing, your body will turn it into fat just because it doesn't know what else to do with it. And so the more natural, the better.
So
And
let's pause on that, on processed food. I once heard somebody describe processed food generally as anything that comes with a label on it that has ingredients, essentially. So things that don't have to have a label with ingredients tend to be natural, tend to be what you should be focused on. Is
yes,
that a good summation?
good summation.
Right.
Exactly. And so what I did was I was an insulin dependent diabetic, which is essentially controlled meal to meal. And so what I did was I just dropped anything that got turned into sugar in my body, which is really any starch or any carbohydrate, and focused mainly on protein. Now, my husband, who when I met him was a vegetarian, I myself was not. And so when I could no longer function, he did all the cooking. So I became a vegetarian too. And that essentially reversed my diabetes. Um, I had helped my father reverse his diabetes and then didn't do it for myself. And so
Mhm.
within 6 months, I was off insulin. My weight had dropped naturally. Um, I'd lost the first 60 of my 100+ pounds. And that was just simply, and I couldn't exercise because I was in heart failure. So it was all from diet.
Wow. Now I noticed that you mentioned protein. Um, what about protein intake and muscle loss as we age? And because I think you all have sort of two different sort of approaches to that. So I'm curious to hear. Let's start with you this time, Dr. Toomer, and then go to Chef Babette.
Well, I tend to meet people where they are. And so if they're meat eaters, I try to get them to eat as cleanly as possible within that realm. But I
Mhm.
do prefer plant-based proteins. And we have several that we can use, or taking combinations of grains and greens and making a protein out of that.
Mhm.
And so that I encourage that quite a bit. Um, and so that is mainly what I focus on, and muscle production at the time. So muscle production, you start where you are. The earlier the better. And so if you're young, build as much muscle as you possibly can. We will lose some, we don't have to lose that much as long as
Okay.
we're consistent and we maintain it. My mother's 94, still does her stretching exercises. She does her band work. She does her legs. I mean, every
Uh,
single day. Her
Oh,
bicycling in
wow.
her chair, and so you can maintain that muscle even
Right.
well into your 90s, into your hundreds. But you
I
have
just
to
want to,
start where you are.
yeah, I just want to pause on those examples that you gave because I think they're excellent examples of ways that seniors don't have to do high impact things. Band work, that's resistance, which builds muscles. I think you mentioned bicycling in place.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
She does a lot
stretching.
of punching. She does her
All
punching exercises. Yeah.
right, right. All not high impact activities that are very achievable. So I think that's excellent. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to really
No,
highlight that piece.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Understand. But yes, and so really, the main thing though is we tend to have this all or nothing mentality where we have to do everything to the extreme. The internet hasn't helped with that. I mean, we do have outliers, and we will always have outliers, but we are all are not outliers. We're not all Olympian. We're not all in a position where we can become you know bodybuilders at 85, even though we've seen it. Um, but we can do the best we can within the situation that we're in. If we're doing nothing now and we do something, it's always better.
Yeah. Now, Chef Babette, you mentioned that, you know, on your dates with your husband, he had you running up hills. So what are you what are your what is your physical routine like now?
Well, I still will hit a heel every now and then, thanks to him.
Uh-huh.
I met him when I was 39 years old, about to turn 40. So the first date was we went up to Griffith Park, and it has a lot of inclines, and he ran the whole thing backwards, and I'm struggling walking this thing, and I'm thinking to myself, this is how you get dates nowadays, you know. And but afterwards, and watching him run that whole thing backwards, I thought to myself, one day I'm going to be strong enough, perhaps not, I mean, to run this thing maybe at a walker's pace, but in a running mode, and I can do that right today. Meeting him was really changed my whole human experience.
Uh,
And now I did do a goof, and this is extremely important too, especially for those people who have not been moving, and now you know what, you get this spark and you feel like, I want to get out here and I just want to start working out. Just remember, that's all good, but to stay in your lane. Even for people like myself, I busted my knee 2 days before my 73rd birthday, which was December 5th. I stepped out of my lane. I hadn't been on a treadmill in a while, and at least a year or two. And I did my 45-minute spin, and my ego told me I should go get on a treadmill because I used to run an 8-minute mile. I get on the treadmill, turn it up to 7, sprint. Then I go into the workout room with my trainer. By the time I get to the restaurant and bend down, my right knee cracks 3 times.
Ooh.
And
Wow.
I've basically taken off since December 5th. Because I stepped out of my lane. So yes, we encourage movement, we encourage exercising. It's important. But if you're not a runner, please don't start your first movement trying to run on cement. Don't do that. A brisk walk is enough. Push-ups, you don't have to get on the floor and do a push-up. You can lean on your kitchen counter and push up. You
Yep.
know, just staying in your lane is very important, but yes, movement is important as well. I am so grateful that at 73, I just moved into a new spot, and the bathtub is so deep. And I think about my mother in a normal bathtub, she was not able to get in and get out on her own.
Right.
And to be 73 years old and get in this deep tub and still be able to get myself out is a blessing. And that is exactly what we want. But it is because I've spent the last 30 some odd years since I've known my husband moving,
Wow.
working out. I do better personally with a trainer. I will go a little bit harder with a trainer, but they keep me in my lane rather than me trying to do something on my own and
Right.
goof up.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm just, people, nourish yourself, take in good stuff in your mind, and just practice self-love and self-care. It's so very important because we are such an overweight, sick society, and we don't have to be.
And you know, I just want to say shout out to the men in your lives, because both of you sound like you were heavily influenced by the men in your lives. And so often the trope is, oh, you know, we as women, we have to be the ones to take care of our men. So shout out to the men in your lives. And all the men that, you know, positively influence their mates. So I want to, you know, you mentioned, you know, watch what you take into your mind, which brings me to cognitive health. Um, let's first start, Dr. Toomer, on what role does physical, activity play in cognitive health as we age?
Well, most of our issues with aging in our brain, particularly in our community, is a combination of hypertension, diabetes, and isolation. And so the combination of, so anything that controls those things, keeping your blood, because we have what's called microvascular dementia is often what we see. And the micro vessels of our brain are affected by stress, which then is affected by blood sugar.
Those are the small vessels that
Small vessels in
feed
our
the cells
brain.
in our brain.
Yes. And as they start to harden, there's things that can make them harden. And as they harden, the very part of our brain we use to think, that we use to function, that we use to process, all starts to be affected. And so anything that controls our blood pressure, controls our blood sugar, and keeps our moods in general at an even keel. And the way to do that is by lowering stress. And isolation is probably one of the biggest stressors we have as we age, because with just using my mother as an example, she's 94, and she often says, I can't, if she goes, she'll tell a story, and she said, one of the things I don't like about aging is I don't have anybody to ask if I have the facts right. And we told her, well, if they're your facts, they're right, because there's nobody to dispute them.
Yeah.
So, but what we have done is we've made sure that she's never alone. One of us always with her at all times. My sister lives with her, which we have arranged for that to happen, so that she was in assisted living for a little while, but she said she found it difficult because other people were not able to communicate as effectively because they had dementia and she didn't. And so she just is around us. So we keep her. So those are all things that that our health and our minds are, well, we can't separate them. Our health is like I said, biopsychosocial. So it's all combined and you can't separate them.
Right. And I think there's also too a study that shows specifically about the physical activity and cognitive health, that just maintaining, like doing light weightlifting to maintain your muscle mass specifically helps with your thinking, preserving your thinking and your cognitive ability. But I love that you brought up that whole piece about community. I had the pleasure of meeting Chef Babette in person and seeing her in her restaurant, interacting with everybody. Tell us about, your being social in your community. What role do you think that plays for you personally, Chef Babette?
When I was a child, I was so shy, and now my mother's name was Inez. Now I'm Inez. I don't really meet a stranger. It's because of my spiritual beliefs. I do believe in the oneness on this planet, and I believe that which created me created all of it, and there is no separation. We're all one in this. And so I appreciate the gift of life, this human experience, so much that the only way that I can show my appreciation is to stay current. I try not to live in the past. I do everything I can not to jump too far in the future. I embrace my moments and I appreciate my now. And so it's keeping the negative, because there's absolutely nothing I can do about anything that happened 15 minutes ago. Leave that alone. And how I'm gonna pay the house note next month, I'm gonna handle that
when it gets here.
The next month. But right here, right now, this is guaranteed to me. This time, I'm enjoying this conversation with you ladies. I'm enjoying my life right now. And I think most of us, we need to stay a little bit more present. You know what I mean? And embrace our now. Because that's truly the only time that is guaranteed to us. Once I began to understand that, And I understood there are just certain energy I care not to surround myself with. Some energy I just don't want to be bothered with. Another thing that I've learned at my age of 73 right now, I do spend a lot of time alone. My daughter lives in another state, grandkids are all over the place. I spend a lot of time alone, and I love the hell out of me. I didn't know how amazing I was until I got the chance to spend so much time with myself. And so, yeah, I'm just right now, you guys, I'm really appreciating this human journey and this gift of life. And by doing that, I take care of me to say thank you to the intelligence. Yeah.
There are so many things all wrapped up in everything that you said that are research proven ways to decrease stress in your life, right? So loving yourself, being involved in your community, maintaining a healthy, positive attitude. I mean, you know, so many things in that are wrapped up in there when we talk about stress. Dr. Toomer, tell us what role does stress, quote unquote, play in aging? And I put stress because I always like to distinguish between stressors versus stress.
Yes.
But tell us a little bit about the role that stress plays in aging.
What it does, it actually works on a cellular level, right down to our DNA. So there are enzymes that help correct our DNA. Our cells are always dividing, and when they divide, sometimes little mistakes happen, and then the cell fixes them. There's an enzyme that does that fixing. When we're under stress, that enzyme stops working, and those cells stop being fixed. And that's one of the reasons why cancer rates go up under stress. It's another reason why we age. Our hair changes, you know, we go gray faster. Our skin loses its elasticity, mainly because as those cells divide, they can't fix themselves as well because of stress. And that can be environmental stress. It can be nutritional stress. It can be emotional stress. Whatever the stressor is, it will change our actual DNA. And that's also why having stress gets passed on to through generations.
Yeah.
Epigenetics.
Right, because it actually changes the DNA itself, which can then get passed on to the next generation if it happens before the person reproduces.
Yes.
Yeah, I like to think of President Obama before his first 4 years, and then President Obama at the end of the 8 years, and that how gray he got in that short period of time.
I
But
use
yeah,
that photo actually in my stress talk.
yes, exactly. Exactly. I think everybody can relate to that, right?
Mhm.
Um, on a separate note, you know, how often should older adults undergo health screenings? And what are the screenings that become important as you get older? Because you mentioned cancer, right?
Yes.
So what are some of the screenings that older adults should be having as they get older?
Well, we should always screen for our cognitive screening. So checking for dementia early. The earlier it's caught, the earlier the decline is caught, the easier it is to stop it and reverse it. And so there are what we call mini mental status exams, and we can do that. The other is skin. Over time, because of the level of exposure, we often feel that our melanin protects us from cancer, and it doesn't. We can still get melanomas. We can still get other types of skin cancer. So that's really important to get screened and not to ignore any skin lesions that just won't heal. Always being checked for diabetes, hypertension, any type of, cardiac screening, making sure that we don't have heart disease, eyes, our vision, our hearing. The reason hearing and vision are so important is simply because they're isolating if they start to deteriorate, and that makes us deteriorate even faster. The other is anything that will affect our mobility. So, because you want to maintain your independence. So, checking for arthritis, any type of inflammatory markers, anything that, any mobility screening is actually very important. And then, of course, the cancer screenings like mammograms, colon checks, prostate for men. Those are always the most important. And then really any symptom that just doesn't seem right, if you ever ask yourself the question, should I get this checked? The answer is yes.
Great. That's an excellent summary. Chef Babette, what advice would you give to, say, people in their 50s and 40s and 50s as they prepare for healthy aging?
I think something that is extremely important and is to have a knowledge of what one should actually ingest as part of the human species. I think for me to say, oh yeah, the vegan lifestyle is great, you should do that, that does absolutely nothing for you. You need to understand why you eat what you eat. You need to have a knowledge of that. Otherwise, I just don't think it works out that well. The only reason I was able to transition at age 39 is because this man gave me 3 books. That's how we started. He didn't just feed me a vegan. By the way, he did feed me my first vegan meal on that day too. But he didn't just feed me the vegan meal. He gave me information that was going to give me knowledge, and knowledge is power. And I have not stopped seeking the knowledge. I'm learning every single day. Now, I do want to address something that the doctor just addressed. Ron and I are really naughty as it pertains to getting these checkups with the doctors. And I didn't have a primary care physician until, at the end of the year, if you're in your 70s, they'd be like, maybe you want to sign up for this. And I went ahead and I have a primary care physician. I have not met them yet. We don't get sick, he and I. And so we've been really naughty about just going to get the test. Just go get the test. No matter how you plan on handling it, if you find out anything, but at least get the test so you have knowledge of what's going on. I know I'm supposed to do that. I do know I'm supposed to do that. And we're gonna get better. Ron and I are gonna get better. But I don't even know what you asked me, but yeah, I felt so bad when she was talking about that. I was like, ooh.
It was advice that you give to people in their 40s and 50s. And you definitely hit it about know what you're putting in your body. And I think
it's so
when
important.
when you're in that proactive frame of mind, you are probably going to get sick less. And I'm not condoning your naughty behavior, but I can understand that if you're not getting sick, you don't feel the same urgency to go to the doctors. For the vast majority of people, though, that's not the case. And things start to crop up as early as in your 30s and 40s for some people, depending on the lifestyle and the choices that they have,
but
and the stressors on them.
We live on a planet with dirty air, dirty water.
Yeah,
it doesn't have anything to do with what I'm ingesting purposely. But what about my environment? I can't control all of that. So really, the advice that the doc gave, go get the checkup. And it's important. It really is important. I'm gonna be better. I promise.
So we have like 1 more minute.
Really?
I want to just no, we're gonna have the audience come in and ask y'all questions. So I mean, just in terms of just the 3 of us hanging out, we're gonna have some more folks join us. But I just wanted to see, does either of you all have a common myth about aging that you frequently come across, and can you myth bust for us?
Okay, Doc, you go.
The biggest myth I hear is you have to slow down, and that weight gain and chronic disease is inevitable. It's not. You can stay, one of the things that, and I can tell you, one of the I remember my father asking me when I started med school. I hope I'm not. Hope I'm not losing you because of my Wi-Fi. Has asked me in med school is how could he stay healthy? And one of the parameters I told him was to stay within 10 to 15 pounds of what you were at 21. Keep your blood sugars under control, control your blood pressure, and move every day and watch your moods. And he said, okay. And then my mother said, well, what do I have to do to make sure he sticks to that? And so I told her, and he lived to 90.
Wow. That's beautiful. And that's one of the reasons I started off the very first question at, genetics versus lifestyle. A lot of people believe, this happened to my father, brother, sister, whatever, it's going to happen to me. And that's definitely not necessarily true. The majority
And
of the
can I
time.
add one thing? Our genetics are what they are, but our genes get switched on or switched off based on our behavior.
There you go.
And so we can, even if we are predisposed for certain things, we can prevent some things just by how we act and what we do.
By the choices we make. Yes, absolutely. Well, we have to bring the audience in, y'all. And to do that, that's Lila and Wayne's job. I'm going to ask them to come on back with us on camera and let us know what is going on in the chat. What are y'all seeing in terms of questions from the audience, comments from the audience? Come on back in. I think they're being shy. Are y'all being shy out there? There we go. There we go.
Not being shy at all.
Okay. I know.
Just working on something. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I've never been one to be shy, Dr. Mel. Never.
Yes, I know. And neither is Lila.
Lila, what do you have?
There are lots of questions, and I'll take some Facebook questions. Let's see. Vaughn Smith. Where did it go? I just lost it. She says, I am fond of seeds in my salads. Do you have any particular nuts that you favor? That's for Chef Babette first, and then Dr. Toomer.
Oh, any particular nut? I'm not allergic
I know
to
you
any
love
nuts.
cashews.
I love cashews. You know I do.
I know
That's what my book's about. But yeah, I love pecans a lot. I really, really, really love and pistachios. You know that they've snatched the pistachios and roasted them. You can get them in every flavor on the planet in them little bags, But
with the salt and vinegar on them.
Yeah.
And the little bags.
My preference is a raw nut, and it's really I'm loving the what did I tell y'all just a second ago?
Pecans.
Pecans.
Pecans and
I love pecans. That's my favorite nut.
That's our southern nut.
Yes,
Love it.
But I think
And
any nut is great.
I prefer them raw. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have another question from our producer on the West Coast, Rhoda Lawrence, is a raw diet better for you than vegetarianism? What are the benefits of a raw diet?
Well, either one of us. Go ahead, Doc.
I was going to say, one of the benefits of eating raw foods is the roughage and the fiber. When you cook something, it breaks it down already. And so what that does is it takes away some of the benefit of what your body can do. And so eating something raw gives your body what it's naturally supposed to do. And when it acts like it's naturally supposed to, then it functions like it's naturally supposed to. And so eating raw food. Now, that's not to say, some people are like, I can't do that. So one of the things that I always recommend is just start with one meal. If you just start somewhere, even if it's just one meal a day. And then what's going to happen, you'll start feeling so much better. It will start driving you to have 2 meals a day, or at least combinations of things. So even if you have some things that are cooked, have something that's wrong, which is why salads are such a popular thing to have with meals, because that crunch, that roughage. And just to go back a little bit, my favorite is raw almonds and pumpkin seeds because of the high protein.
I make a mean massage kale salad with pumpkin seeds.
You do. You do.
Yeah.
You do.
You
Well,
do.
Let me tell you.
I believe.
Go ahead, Doctor. Go ahead, Chef.
I believe that the molecular structure of anything that's you have too much heat, it's going to change the molecular structure of it. And so I am life. So if I can pick my food right off of a tree, I don't need to go and add heat to it. I'd rather have whatever nutrients, whatever I can get from that apple in its natural state, let me get it. Those are the nutrients when I talk about eating life. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the energy left in that food. I'm talking about the fact that I have not subjected it to temperatures higher than 115 degrees Fahrenheit, which changes the molecular structure. It changes the food. So live food, I'm just, and you said it, salad. If you can't have anything else live, when people come into Stuff I Eat, we used to always give them a salad with their meal, to the point that Ron and I, we were like crazy people. We'd be like, why are you not eating your salad? That's the only live food on your plate. People would be like, what? I paid for this. Can I eat it the way I want to? But knowledge is power. You need to understand that you need to have some life along with that death you're eating. It's not just about being a vegan. Just about being a vegan doesn't mean that you're doing it right, because you're abstaining from animal products. You can be the junkiest vegan on the planet and make yourself so sick. But I just believe in eating the food as the universe planted it for me to eat.
And you have a live program called Sunday Bites and Tidbits. And I know you address a lot of these things on there.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
It's what we do. It's what we do, Chef Babette. We bring up those things.
Yes.
Chef is talking about salads. Chef and Doctor are talking about salads. But listen, Chef will make you a raw chocolate nut cake with coconut cream in a bun pan.
You know all about that.
Yes, ma'am. And look, you will not listen. That thing don't have no heat on it. It actually goes. Go to her Instagram. We're gonna get your socials in a minute, but y'all gotta check her out, because these raw desserts are bananas. I had to say that.
Maybe she uses bananas as well.
That's where we might get some of these folks. They have a slice of that raw chocolate coconut cream cake.
Oh, might be worth the flight.
Right.
So everybody get your points together.
There you go.
Head on out to Inglewood, specifically, not just LA, Inglewood.
So we have another question from D-Man Entertainment. They would like to know, is it true we need to eat according to our blood type?
Dr. Toomer,
I've never done that.
No.
That's not how I. That's not how.
Just to say this. First of all, most people don't know their blood type. Most often, babies born to a mother who have different blood types, and they were developed in somebody who had a different blood type. 1 and 2. We've lived for millennia not knowing a lot of the things that we're claimed to need to know now, and we've survived it. And mainly because we ate intuitively. We avoided things that caused us harm, and we ate things that made us well, and we avoided poisons. And that's essentially all we need to do even now. And that includes one of the things that Babette mentioned was heating. How you heat your food also matters. Microwaves will kill nutrients in food. It's quick, but it when you think about how it heats, it destroys the molecular structure of food. And one way to prove this is a good science project for any child. If you take water and you heat it in the microwave and you let it cool and you use tap water and you water plants, the plant being watered with the microwave water will not grow.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Wow.
That's deep.
So Dr. Mel, before we go, we have another question, but before we go to that question, I just want to get in. We asked some seniors a lot of questions, a lot of different questions, and can I play some of their answers?
Yeah.
And
Go ahead. I'd love to
let's
see
see
this.
what they said.
My name is Patrice Grace. I am 73 years old and I will be 74 Christmas Eve.
I'm Dr. Robert Fullilove, and I'm 80 years old.
Berkeley Milner, 90 years old.
I have outlived two of my brothers. I've outlived my parents. I believe I'm the oldest Fullilove since my grandfather, who was born in 1882, to be this age.
Because we had family that was 104 and 100 and...
I don't want to say that it's entirely genetics. Some of it I think is just dumb good luck.
You know, I do not have a regular sleep schedule. Sometimes I sleep 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes I sleep 8 hours.
I do not have a regular sleep schedule. I sleep, if I'm lucky, 4, maybe 5 hours a night. I know for a lot of folk that seems like it's not enough, but I think it's been very clear that it certainly works for me.
1, drink a lot of water.
All types of veggies, well, veggies and no meat, but a little chicken and turkey occasionally.
I'd like to think that it has really worked very well, and my cardiologist is really quite pleased with how well I've maintained myself over the course of these past 2 decades. What I do know is that I don't have interrupted sleep that is basically a function of having a lot of worries. I think I sleep through very soundly. I think I have that.
Eat well, and I haven't eaten red meat in 45 years. And
I don't deal with stress.
That a lot of us live our lives sweating things that never happen. 84% of the things we worry about simply are in our heads. They're not actually occurring as life is marching on.
I have no control over that. So, I mean, why would I try to, do anything to change or manage change in life?
remove toxic, negative people from your life. Because I like that song, Don't Want Nobody to Bring Me No Bad News.
Being able to separate what's real from what is imagined and asking myself, am I worrying about something that's happening in the future and not paying attention to what's happening right now? When my answer is yeah, I try to stop. And I think the fact that I stay focused on the here and now, and I'm not battling future dilemmas, future problems, future challenges, I'm not creating for myself this fight or flight syndrome where my blood pressure goes up simply because I'm battling in imaginary demons.
We has no control over that.
But my regular checkups with my cardiologist have been occurring every 6 months. And it is there that my progress gets monitored, my blood pressure is checked. I still am someone who takes medication to control hypertension. But largely, over the last couple of years, I've cut down from 4 meetings a year to just 2.
How often do I visit my doctor? I only visit my doctor if they set up an appointment for me to visit, because otherwise I don't deal with doctors too tough.
I think the most important one is find your joy, whatever that means to you.
Fun. Laughter, a really good, solid belly laugh is, I believe, one of the ways in which people relieve stress. And keeping yourself from laughing, I think, is one of those things that, for all intents and purposes, is likely to usher in some really bad consequences for your health. So not only do I believe in laughter, I'm one of those folks who's trying to always encourage folks to chuckle here and there because it's good for your health.
Find your joy, whatever that means to you. Find your bliss, your happiness. Take care of your heart, your health, and your mental state.
Santayana was right. Those who do not learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat it. A knowledge of the past, it seems to me, is a really important precondition for making sense of the present, and it's certainly essential for planning for the future. Know what came before you, and the chances that you'll continue in the best way possible, I think, will go up dramatically.
First of all, mind your own business. Don't be in other people's business. And just be positive. Think positive.
Amazing. I got some good belly laughs in there with all of that. I want to thank each of those amazing seniors, 73 years young, 80 years young, 90 years young, for indulging us and passing their wisdom on. That was amazing. Do we have time for one more?
One more. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got Lila. You want to take it?
I'll start with Dr. Toomer first. What is the biggest difference, would you say, between the diets of cavemen and now, and why those diets are the diets now are so detrimental to health?
Well, partly because when cavemen were eating, they ate raw meat, but they also ate in feast or famine. So they either had a lot of food and then they starved. So the people who were able to take that food and turn it into fat lived longer than those who were able to take that food and weren't able to turn it into something they could store. It worked then. It's maladaptive now. So those of us who are able to take food and turn it into fat very quickly and very easily are now having metabolic issues, which is one of the reasons why what so-called new weight loss medications are really metabolic medications. They actually treat the metabolic issues that cause that ease of making fat out of food. And that's why they work so well. So that's the difference between cavemen and us. The other is we don't fast. We never give our bodies a break.
Except for Chef Babette.
Right.
She fasts every 4 months.
All right.
Wow. Well, thank you all so much. And I want to thank Dr. Fully Love, Miss Patrice, Mr. Berkeley, for those wonderful interviews. Thank you so much, Chef Babette. Can you tell the audience where to find you on social media?
You can find me at Chef Babette Davis, Chef Babette, Instagram, TikTok, Babette Davis on Facebook. Yeah, Chef Babette.
All right, and check out Sunday Bites and Tidbits. And then Dr. Toomer, again, thank you so much for all your wisdom. Tell the audience where they can find you on social media or on your blackdoctor.org show.
You can find me on my website at drtoomer.com, and that's drtoomer.com. I'm also Dr. Toomer on Facebook, Dr. Toomer on YouTube, and I'm Dr. Toomer Talks on TikTok. And then I'm actually on blackdoctor.org live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. on Facebook and on YouTube.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again. Of course, thank you to Wayne and Lila, my fantastic co-hosts. Thank you, my Be Health Empowered family, for tuning in and having those great questions. And remember, until we see you again, be wise, be well, and be health empowered. Thanks for tuning in.